Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new podcast, Always Learning. I'm your host Ashutosh, and today on the very first episode of the show, Lives of Business Leaders, we are going to know a lot about a personality who I personally consider as an unheard gem in the business industry. The underrated creator, innovator, entrepreneur, businessman, and philanthropist. Personality whose name never came up in the headlines of the modern era, so the most of the young people around the world haven't even heard about him. Now, this fact is so strange because the company this man created has affected our lives in ways beyond imagination. The revolution in innovative running shoes that changed the way even athletes value their shoes was brought up by this very company. Today, we see products of this brand all around us. And the name of the company is none other than Nike. Now, isn't it strange that we know who built the Apple company, we know who created Facebook, but have you ever wondered who created the company Nike? Yes, today we are going to talk about the creator of Nike, the man who brought a revolution in the shoe industry. Today's episode of Lives of Business Leaders is on the legend of Phil Knight. So let's start. A 22-year student athlete at Stanford University made a presentation in his business class in the year 1958. The presentation, though appallable, was termed as an impossible scenario by many. The title of the presentation was How Japanese Shoes Can Replace German Shoes the Way Japanese Cameras Did to the German Ones in the American Market. That is exactly how the crazy stupid idea of Nike company was born in the mind of Phil Knight. Phil, also nicknamed Buck, wanted to bring Japanese shoes to the American market in the post-war era where the two were not on good terms. Buck was on a world trip when he reached Japan and out of curiosity, went to see a shoe factory which manufactured Tigers, the famous Japanese running shoes. And boom, by night, he had himself a deal with the factory to send a few hundred shoes to America. This episode of importing shoes from Japan kept going on for a few months. Buck had his first real challenge now, which was selling those shoes to the American athletes. He started by offering a few pairs to his acquaintances, then he went on selling them over at some local sporting event. Once he just parked his second-hand car at a crowded place and started selling the shoes out of the boot of the car. The big break happened for Buck when he tried to sell the shoes to his former trainer on field at his alma mater, University of Oregon, Mr. Bill Bowerman. The coach not only bought his shoes but also offered to be his partner in business. Considering the experience an Olympic athletic coach would have about sports, and Bowerman's personal zeal to improvise running shoes by experimenting on his athletes, Buck couldn't simply ignore the opportunity. So a made-up name, Blue Ribbon, that Buck came up with during his meeting with the Japanese manufacturers was now an official shoe company based in the basement of Phil Knight's father's house in Portland, Oregon. Over the next few years, Buck kept on selling those shoes and working on a side job so as to keep the company afloat and to fill his own stomach. Bowerman kept on making new shoe designs for the typical American market and sending them all over to Japan to be manufactured. Buck kept on increasing the order every time and involved his sister and friends to work for his little shoe company. To have official cash flow going on, they had to have a bank associated with the company. So they talked with some local banks, and when after a few years they outranked the bank's lending limits, they had to go with the Bank of California as their official banking partner. During the early years of Buck's life, he met an American girl while trekking on famous Japanese mountains during one of his business meetings to Japan. They just connected in the moment and also met after the vacation back in America. After a few months of going out and occasional family gatherings, when Buck was really in love with this girl, she, due to some unsaid reason, started avoiding him and his letters. This was Buck's first encounter with a heartbreak. but it couldn't stop him from working hard on his company. His own company. Second time Buck fell in love was the time when he started teaching as a side job. There was this sweet and simple but charming in her own little way girl, Penny. Penny was a student in Buck's class, and soon after observing her excellent organizational skills, Buck offered Penny an internship at his company, which by the way now had rented out a small store to carry out the administrative work. Due to the time spent together at Blue Ribbon and at class, Buck and Penny developed a special affection for each other. Later, they got married and are still together today. Blue Ribbon had become big by now, but the sky was the limit. So they started sponsorships and endorsements with famous athletes and sports teams. Bowerman also had an upper hand in this case because he knew the players and he had even coached some incredible players. Due to these endorsements, sometimes the company would get so much attached to the superstar athletes like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, etc., that they would consider them to be a part of the company, and the players themselves would also reciprocate this feeling in their relationship. Bowerman was also unstoppable when it came to innovating the shoe designs. Once he took the waffle-making iron and got rubber poured on it over several failed attempts, but later on got a breakthrough design for running shoes from a kitchen equipment. Financial problems followed marketing success for Blue Ribbon. Now Buck had to make some serious decisions for his company to save it from going bankrupt. But that was Buck, the risk taker, the decision maker, and the hard worker Buck. Over the course of next few years, Blue Ribbon went through a lot, whether it be taking money from Japanese trading companies, dealing with shortage of cash flow, or meeting the market demands. Nisho was the name of the Japanese trading company that Buck made a deal with for Blue Ribbon, and it lent huge chunks of money to Blue Ribbon. It was also Buck's number one priority to return the money back to Nisho on time. Nisho has also been the lifeboat for Blue Ribbon for saving the company from going bankrupt when they were unable to pay back Bank of California. Buck had strong and deep relations with the people at Nisho, and as a matter of fact, Blue Ribbon had made them all the more rich. Another bad phase for Blue Ribbon began when the Japanese manufacturer tried playing dirty tricks with Blue Ribbon over a sealed deal. In retaliation, Blue Ribbon launched a new brand named Nike and started importing shoes from several other manufacturers spread over Asia. Though it didn't break their deal with the Japanese manufacturers, but it sure affected their relationship. Both sides filed lawsuits claiming that they were cheated, and Blue Ribbon won the case and also converted completely to Nike. The bad phase didn't end here. The rivals, being paranoid and stressed over their declining sales and Nike's rising, convinced the American government to fine Nike a great sum of money. This was a way of trying to stop Nike's growth or even altogether shut it down. But Buck chose to fight the government over this unjust deed. So he hired the most apt people to do the job, worked very hard himself, and finally settled the case on a very subtle amount of money in the government's pocket. Alongside fighting their rivals, the government, the banks, and the Japanese manufacturer Nike thrived towards growth yet again over the years. Nike today is the biggest sports company, period. And all of this was possible with the sheer will of not giving up by the creator of Nike, Phil Knight himself. Not that it was enough, but Buck learned how to write a book in his old age and published Shoe Dog, a book in which he tells the world the story of himself, the story of Nike. At the end, I would like to say, as Nike says, just do it. With this, I would like to end today's episode. Your feedback and suggestions are always welcome. Thank you.